We have another reality TV star joining us today. I'm so excited. So make sure you subscribe so that anytime we
Yeah.
do something with regards to shorts or full lengths, you won't miss out because these conversations will encourage you. Well, that's our hope.
Yeah.
And we just want you to be along the ride, the journey with us.
Tell friends, tell family members, tell complete strangers, but make sure you subscribe. So I was looking back on everything, Holly,
Yeah.
and I've come to the conclusion that this is the second time that we have had a reality TV star on our podcast.
False news, fake
What?
news.
Okay,
Third time.
who?
My cousin, Todd.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. And then the race car driver.
Matt Jaskell.
Yeah. And now
Okay.
today.
All right, never mind.
Wait. Fourth time. Because then didn't we have a bachelorette on?
No, that's possible. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Well,
So
who else are you having on today?
yeah.
No, nobody. We can only handle one a day.
Have you ever heard of? No. Listen, Tim. Anytime anybody says yes, we're always excited. So I mean, we're surprised a lot too.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And
I
that's a
find that hard to
reality
believe.
star. Yeah.
Pardon me?
I find that hard to believe.
Oh, actually, it's true.
Oh, very true. Tim Hague Sr., my friend, from Amazing Race Canada, among other
Yeah.
things, which I'm sure we're going to get to. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on today.
And like we said, thanks for saying yes.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, my pleasure. I couldn't say no to Alyssa. Um,
That's true.
We're over 6 years into this, and we joke around, but we're always surprised when somebody does say yes. So that's
Yeah.
Oh,
kind of
wow.
where we are.
Well, you're doing a good job, so keep it up. And yeah, it's a
We
real pleasure to be here.
we like to ask the skill testing question, Tim, because we never know where it's going to go, and that is, who are you and where did you come from?
That's a very long question or a very long answer, but oh my, what's the short answer? I'm Tim Hague, husband to Cheryl, father of 4 kids and 2 grandkids, and one dog, Bella.
Aw.
How's that for the short answer?
That's
And
good. That's good. I've heard it's more exciting or it feels better to be a grandparent than a parent. True or
oh yeah,
false? Yeah.
absolutely true. The old saying that if you knew that the grandkids were going to be so much fun, you'd have had them first.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, I love that.
So
Yeah.
you live in Winnipeg now?
I live in Winnipeg. I've always lived in Winnipeg. When I came to Canada, moved to Winnipeg, been here for since 1989, however long that is.
Okay,
Just
and
a
then you were
couple
born
years.
where?
I was born in Texas and grew up in Kansas City.
All right.
Kansas City, yeah, American.
There you go.
Well,
America.
I was 24 when I moved here. I'm now 58, so you can do the math there. And I've been more Canadian longer than I have been an American. But yes, those are my roots. I stand by them.
Hey, it's a good place to come from, that's for sure. But why
Absolutely.
Winnipeg? I mean, I love our friends in Manitoba, but I mean, if you're thinking of mosquitoes and cold weather,
Yeah.
that's Winnipeg.
Well, I just like to say only the strong. Only the strong live in Winnipeg.
Oh.
Everybody else moves to BC.
You need a shirt that says that. Only the strong. Winnipeg.
I should make a t-shirt like that. That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, get
But
some
yeah,
royalties.
my wife grew up here in Manitoba, and we had been married down in the States and lived there for 4 years, and we were going to make a change, so we thought we'd come here for a couple of years. Literally a couple of years. We thought 2 or 3 years, and we'd go back to the States. It's been 34.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's amazing.
So as a boy growing up in Texas, like a kid growing up down in the States, what was your dream to become a speaker and to become an advocate and to be I mean, granted, reality TV really wasn't a thing back in the day, but where were your hopes and dreams?
Yeah.
I one time wanted to be fly fighter planes in the F-18s in the Air Force, and never thought about doing anything that I'm doing now.
Hmm.
Life took a completely different turn than I would have ever imagined, and thank God. Who wants to be in somewhere shooting at people?
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah,
That is
no,
fair.
things are very, very different than what I would have imagined them to be.
Hmm.
No.
Were you going to school to head in that direction, or what was like the realistic dream, the one that your parents were supporting you in?
Oh no, my parents wanted me to be a pastor. I was supposed to grow up be a pastor. My dad was a pastor for many years, and I was supposed to grow up, go to Bible school, and become a preacher like Dad.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Only problem was I wasn't called to do that.
Yes.
So after high school, I went to well, in high school, got very involved with Youth for Christ, Kansas City Youth for Christ. Was very involved there, and that's where I actually started speaking
Hmm.
and preaching at little youth groups and Bible clubs and whatnot in various churches. And my senior year in high school, I spent just about every Sunday somewhere preaching.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that's what got me started. And yeah, then after that, we went to Bible school, a little Capenry like Bible school, YWAM ish type of Bible school that Kansas City Youth for Christ put on. And
Hmm.
that's where I met my wife, of course.
Because it's bridal school. That's what all
That's right.
the high schoolers know. You want to get married? Go to Bible school.
That's right. And so
So
we sat beside each other the first day, and that was it.
Aw.
I love it.
Love at
So
first sight.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
at least for me, it was.
with having a dad as a I mean, Holly and I talk about this all the time. Was there
Yeah.
pressure being a pastor's kid, living up to expectations? I mean, you had said, thought maybe they wanted me to be a pastor, but just living the life of having a dad as a pastor.
Oh yeah, there's always pressure. And then yeah, simple answer is just yes. There's always
Mm.
pressure
Yeah.
of various kinds.
Yeah, it's interesting too. A lot of pastors' kids will say there's, yes, the pressure and there's all those expectations, and it negatively impacted their faith. For you, I mean, clearly you're still in the faith and talking about, what God means to you. How did you navigate the pressure and not interpreting the Christian culture as being your own faith, but like Jesus is your faith?
Yeah. Um, I don't really know. That's a good question. I don't know that I've really asked myself that specific question. Um, I guess mom and dad were fairly good at making sure that we understood that our faith was our own.
Hmm.
It was intended to be our own.
Yeah.
And I had good mentors in my life as life went along. And yeah, I mean, there were very distinct moments in life where decisions had to be remade as to whether or not this was going to be my faith and I was going to continue on in the faith. There were a couple of really stark moments, but
Mm.
yeah, in the end, it was a decision that I consciously made, and I decided that yes, I do believe this. I do believe the scriptures are true. I do believe that Jesus is the Christ, and I'm gonna follow him. So
Hmm.
So
yeah.
you go from Holly asked you a question that you probably never, been asked or thought about to probably this question in which you've probably been asked a million times. Why did you decide to go on to Amazing Race Canada?
My wife told me to.
I love that.
All right.
And, and it's
Oh my goodness.
pretty much boils down to that.
There you go. The rest is history.
We we had a international student living with us, and he turned her on to the Amazing Race, and she always said, if it comes to Canada, we're going to apply and go.
Mm,
Well, it comes to Canada. She goes about doing her due diligence to apply, but she finds out we have to be gone for 5 weeks with no contact with home.
Hmm.
Well, our youngest at that time were 15-year-old twins. Nobody's going to leave 15-year-old twins at home alone for 5 weeks. So she
Nope.
says,
no.
we can't go. Okay, we can't go. He goes, but you can. You and Tim Jr. can go. I'm like, what do you mean? This is your deal. This is what you've always wanted to do. You go apply with
Uh,
Tim Jr. and you go. Well, they love family teams. You're his mother. You're his family. That works. But no, they're gonna love that you're both named Tim. They're gonna love that you both look alike. That, they're gonna love this. They're gonna love that. But most of all, they're gonna love your Parkinson's.
mm,
And I'm
Hmm.
like, what? And she said, well, they've done cancer survivors, they've done prosthetics, they've done this, they've done that. They've never done Parkinson's.
mm.
And don't you know
Wow.
she was right? Again.
Again. So it gets a whole
Yeah.
process. My cousin went through it, and so I would always ask, okay, well, what happened next? And it had to be so hush hush.
Oh yeah.
Um, but like, was there a point where you thought, what am I doing? How did I get here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sitting the very first day we got there, we were in Toronto. We're all at the Royal York Fairmont Hotel there, and we're sitting around these round tables in this room, and we're looking at all these other teams. I'm just like, what in the world is going on? Like, how did I end up here? And who are these people? And what are we actually doing? And is this show going to suck? And are we going to look absolutely ridiculous on television now? Or what have we gotten ourselves into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Fortunately, it didn't suck. It's been the number one most watched television show in Canadian history, right?
Yeah, well, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's exciting. You always are rooting for anyone and everyone at any given point. It can change.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that you also had a chance to watch Amazing Race Canada heading into it and Amazing Race.
Oh yeah.
And was there one thing that you were hoping that would never be a challenge?
No, I wasn't smart enough to think that far ahead. Um, we just said, throw it, bring it. We'll do it.
Yeah.
If you want us to eat it, we'll eat it. If you want us to jump off of it, we'll jump off of it. Whatever. We're
Yeah,
here to do this thing.
yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
I want to rewind to then I guess before going on to Amazing Race Canada, because your wife had said they'll love Parkinson's. When was the realization and the first diagnosis that that was something that you had?
Yeah. I first saw a tremor in my left big toe in August of 2010. And then I was ultimately finally diagnosed in February of 2011. And then that
Hmm.
was 2 years before going on the race.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it that the toe tremor made you feel like, oh, this doesn't seem right?
Yeah, well, I'd been a nurse for a long time at that point, and my adopted father had had Parkinson's,
Hmm.
and I had a half sister who has MS, and so I was very familiar with neurological diseases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew you don't wake up on any given morning with your big toe sitting there twitching at you.
Yeah.
I knew something was up, and I knew right away that it's likely one of those two things.
Yeah. That's how did you navigate going from being completely in control of your body to now your brain was starting to ask it to do things that weren't not normal, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah. Not easily. It's a definitely a struggle. Parkinson's is a some people like to call it a marathon. It's not a marathon. It's much longer than that because you
Hmm.
deal with it every second of every day.
Hmm.
Um, your body just slowly stops listening to you and does whatever it pleases. So it took a long time to kind of settle into the diagnosis, and it takes time every day now. So it seems like most days to just deal with what your reality is.
Hmm.
So
So
looking at it through your eyes, is there some? Would you consider something called a good day and a bad day? What would a good day look like in comparison to a bad day?
well, today's a pretty good day. I was a bit tired. I haven't been sleeping terribly well the last few nights, but that's not here nor there. That seems to be pretty much par for the course. But today I feel well enough to I drive myself around.
Hmm.
Some days you don't. Um, I feel good. I'm on your show, so that makes it a good day.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
something very positive to do, and to reach out. So yeah, today I feel actually quite good. I'm not too terribly squirmy for you. I can sit mostly still, but all this movement you see is just my medication that affects it. So yeah, today's a good day.
Hmm. Being a dad and then having Parkinson's, was it, I guess actually, when were you diagnosed with it?
In 2011.
2011. Right, right. Okay.
Right.
I was having a hard time with the math because that's why I'm in radio. I don't have to do math. Oh my goodness. How was
Nice.
it, navigating family life and really now having to look, you thought this was a trajectory that your life was going, and now,
Mhm.
oh, we're going this way.
Yeah. No, it was again, it has its challenges, but the kids were we have four kids, but they're 4 years apart, except for the twins.
Hmm.
And so
That would be
the
weird.
oldest, yeah, that would be weird.
Your poor wife.
Yeah, 4 years gestation on the second one.
Yeah.
Oy. Um, anyway, Tim Jr. was, I guess, 16 when I was diagnosed, somewhere in there, 16, 17. So he probably had the hardest time of it because he was
Hmm.
old enough to go get on the internet and start hunting for things, and we didn't catch that soon enough. And I think he kind of freaked himself out a little bit, and because I mean, there's all kinds of junk on the net, and just because somebody else has certain parts of Parkinson's doesn't mean I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
So he didn't understand that. So that was a bit of a challenge for him to walk through. Then the next two, Jordana would have been 14, 13 or 14. And then the twins would have been like 8, 9. So at 14, she was, self-absorbed enough to not really bother. And basically the younger three were like, Dad's still here. He looks fine. Everything carries
Hmm.
on as normal.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then
Um,
we've been very open and honest with them as life has gone on, and we walk through every day and every new challenge. I'm looking at DBS surgery, deep brain stimulation surgery, um, possibly in the new year. And so we walk through that and get their opinions on it and ask them to speak into that and to
hmm.
pray for us. And as a family, we pray together and we seek God out to help Dad get through this thing.
Hmm.
I mean, you
Yeah,
answered part of my question, because like we've had a chance to talk with cancer patients who've beat cancer. We've had a chance to talk with people who have, it's stage 4. They told that there's no cure for somebody who's dealing with Parkinson's, knowing the trajectory of what Parkinson's is. Um, at what point did you want to become an advocate for it? At what point did you want to start Parkinson's U-Turn, knowing that
hmm,
there's a way for you to get more information out there to help out maybe others who are going through it?
yeah. I don't think I really had a choice, and I wouldn't have changed it at all. But being on the race, on the Amazing Race, just threw me out there. As soon as
Mm,
I said yes to that, there was no turning back because as soon
Hmm.
as that hit the airwaves, you're on. And so I guess I could have turned around and gone home, but that would have been a little awkward.
Amazing Race to your house.
Yeah, yeah. But I
Oh.
would lots of people keep this to themselves. They try to hide their Parkinson's for a long time. I
Yeah.
clearly outed myself in a big way right off the bat.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I've enjoyed it. I enjoy every second of my advocacy work. It is literally taken me around the world, and we're doing stuff for folks that wouldn't be, I don't think would have been done otherwise, or at least
Mm,
not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With your advocacy, you've been able to team up with other organizations as well. Do you care to share about that?
sure. I mean, my aside from Parkinson's, my next big heartbeat is for Compassion Canada, and working with kids who live in poverty.
mm,
And people often ask me why compassion, why kids, what's the connection there? Well,
Yeah.
the connection is that I was adopted.
mm,
My parents had 3 kids of their own, and then went on to adopt 6 more. All of us biracial, mixed backgrounds of various, mostly black, white, one Latino stirred in there for a little extra spice. And we were all adopted when nobody wanted us.
mm.
Our moms, for various reasons, couldn't keep us. And we were literally taken from church to church, put on display, and offered to anybody who wanted us.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Yeah. And so I look back on those times in 1964. That's the year I was born. You look back at that year and you think about what was happening then. The war in Vietnam was still on. It was the year that Muhammad Ali became boxing's heavyweight champion of the world, right? Martin Luther King Jr. was heavily on the scene. He won the Nobel Peace Prize that year. And America was in real turmoil, right? There was some really nasty things happening. At the same time, some good things were happening. But it was a tough time to be a half breed in America because it was a very black and white world there.
Mm.
And so there was nobody lining up to adopt biracial babies, as we were referred to. So when parents like mine come along and not only adopt me, but six more, you stop and go, what the world is going on?
Mm.
And so today, you look back and I simply see my work with compassion as being the least I can do for the least of these. Because somebody took me in, you asked me earlier who I am and where I come from. And I've always kind of said, I came from nowhere and I was nobody. But somebody took me in and set me at their table. And getting folks to sponsor kids now is just a small way to give back for the grace that God has poured into my life and all the mercies and goodness He has brought me because of my folks.
Hmm. We actually recently interviewed someone who was talking about her adoption journey and how it was just very mixed emotions and feeling like without
Mm-hmm.
a true origin story, it was hard to identify who she was. And it's been a journey. Did you struggle with
Yeah.
that as well?
No, not particularly. My parents were very, very good. I always knew I was adopted and I always knew I was loved. I knew I wasn't theirs, but tell that to my mom and you better not be within arm's reach.
Oh,
She's
goodness.
passionate about her kids. She's very passionate about her kids. So there was no hole in me needing to be filled up in that regard.
Yeah.
I had a mom and a dad who loved me and took very good care of us. So that was okay. But I do still get that though. I understand what that person has been talking about because I know my birth mom, and she's English and German, but I don't know my birth father, and he was black, and so I know nothing of the black community because I grew up in a white community.
Hmm.
And so the older I've gotten, the more I've missed that and realized that there was a whole flavor of life there that I've missed out on that would have been nice to know. But you can't have everything, and I've had almost everything. So
Yeah. I appreciate
yeah.
that so much. It's always nice to hear those kind of stories because I'm also mixed and my dad was black, my mom was white. I was raised by the white side of my family, so very culturally white. And there's always
Hmm.
that feeling like, oh, I belong, like I feel like I belong, but I know I don't look like I belong. And it's always that very interesting perspective because
Yeah.
there's more to your story
Mm.
culturally, but
Yes.
you have to sometimes work to figure out what it is, and sometimes it's really just hard to connect because that's not what I personally grew up with.
Yeah. And that community knows that you didn't grow up with it.
Yeah,
And there's a whole piece there that has to be dealt with because you may look like you belong, but
you don't act like it.
no, you don't sound like it, you don't walk like it, you don't talk like it. No, it's
Yeah,
not quite right.
yeah. No, I feel that. Maybe one day more of the mixed stories will come out, but it's still very much a black and white world, isn't it?
Very much, very
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
And folks do not know what to do with me. And you can see it, right? Even now, you meet somebody and you can see they stereotype you right away. They put you in a
yeah,
pigeonhole,
Mm.
and then you start talking and you start interacting. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, who are you? Like, what are you really? I have so many times been asked, what are you? Right? And I'm sure
yes,
you have. What are
yes.
you?
Human.
Yeah, human. It's a good place to start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I generally just say it took a great many nations to make me. What about you?
It's a good answer.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
good answer. Yeah.
yeah. Oh
Signs that
goodness.
Holly's been asked it a number of times
Hmm.
because she's not that
Oh yeah.
quirky to start.
I'm not.
Um, I want to dive a little more back into compassion for a second though, because one
Yes.
thing that I
Yeah.
that I do love, Holly and I have both had an opportunity to go on compassion trips. I've
Oh,
got to meet
excellent.
my sponsor child back in the day, and as did Holly. I love the fact though that we are given an opportunity to also tell, and not necessarily an adoption, but still we can give messages to kids who are around the world, saying things and let them know that they are loved and that Christ loves them. And it truly is important to have something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing like our having met our sponsored children.
Mm.
Those are just incredible moments. But to know that you're not just doling out money, right?
Yeah.
In this case, when compassion says that they are child focused, they are child focused. And that is very important to me. That when my parents adopted me, they didn't adopt a whole community. Five more almost makes a whole community, but they adopted me and they cared for me. And
Yeah.
compassion looks after individual kids. And
Yeah.
that's so important because we've seen the difference that our gifts make to them on their birthdays and Christmas and those things. And those kids are excited that they get that money, that it comes to them, and we make a real impact in their personal lives. And then the fact that compassion is Christ centered, that
Yeah.
every kid that comes through has the opportunity to hear the good news of Jesus. How else do we change our world except through Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that excites me about what my work with compassion, that we do have the opportunity to make that kind of everlasting change in a kid's life.
Yeah.
And then the fact that we work through the local church is so important. I mean, I often joke when I'm in churches because it seems like so many of the churches I'm in are mostly white. I say, you don't go down to visit your sponsor kid and find a bunch of people that look like us. Well,
Mm.
actually, they look like me, but not like you. Uh,
Johnny's
but the
like, can
fact
I
is,
laugh?
yes, you can laugh.
Listen, I've come from a mixed family of white and whiter, so I got nothing.
Yeah,
Oh
but the
man.
fact that the kids are, the kids that come to compassion, they see their folks, they see
Yeah.
their pastor, they see their youth pastor, they see people who look and sound like them, and the
Mm-hmm.
gospel is presented to them in their world and their words, their culture, and
Yeah.
it's not me coming in and doing something and then
No.
leaving, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
all those
exactly.
three things are incredibly important to me, and I think it makes all the difference in the work that compassion does.
Mm-hmm. This is the Why Me Project, and so let's take a moment to dive into a Why Me moment that you've experienced in your life. Some people
Hmm.
share a valley moment, some people share a mountaintop. We'll leave that one up to you.
Well, the only why me that I can come up with is why was I ever adopted?
Hmm.
It's it's an amazing moment of grace when you look back and really understand where things were at in 1964. I was in Texas. My birth mom went down there to have me, put me up for adoption. They weren't even going to try to adopt me out because they didn't think anybody would take me.
Hmm.
And she threw an absolute fit. And I don't know what difference this made, but she said she threw a fit and told them they better try or she's going to come back and take me. So I don't know what difference that made, but they attempted to adopt me out. And I mean, I think you think about how close I came to being raised in an orphanage somewhere Texas,
Mm.
little half breed kid that nobody wants. What would my life have looked like?
Hmm.
Well, it would have looked like words we shouldn't use here. It would not have been pretty. And to
Yeah.
think that God chose chose to take me out of that, has colored and influenced everything that I do. That it says I'm here for some reason, and that it has to be involved giving back, doing something positive for the least of these. Um,
Hmm.
so that's my why me.
Yeah. That's a big one. That's one that really does shape your entire life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. It's always beautiful to reflect on the moments that make us who we are, and it seems like you've had a lot of key moments that have kept you moving right and left and up and
yeah.
down.
It's been an amazing race.
Oh goodness.
It, I love it. I love it. And then, and it has been. It seems like a race. It's just crazy how things continue to roll out,
Yeah.
and things continue to happen. So
Yeah.
we'll see what he has in store for us next, right?
Well, that's
What
what
I
I wanted
also
to.
love.
Oh,
Oh,
no, go.
what?
No,
Okay,
go.
no, I'm curious of what you're gonna say.
Well, he was just saying, like, being ready for what comes next. So I'm curious, is there anything that you are at least planning? I know, make a plan. What, you want to make God laugh, make a plan, but, is there anything that's coming up next for you in this next chapter of life?
Um, I keep toying with the thought of a new book, another
Hmm.
book. I wrote the one Perseverance back in 2018, and that has done really well. But I'm toying with some other ideas, so we'll see if what happens with those. I mean, I do have Parkinson's, and apathy is huge on the list of Parkinson's. So we'll see if I ever get anything accomplished. But there's lots of work yet to be done with compassion, of course. There's lots of work to be done with Parkinson's. We started in 2016 a charity for people living with Parkinson's disease where we hold, right now we're running about 10, 11 classes every week. We see just shy of 100 people
Oh, wow.
through our site every month.
Hmm.
And we help them with their speech, with just emotional wellness, lots of physical stuff. Physical exercise is huge with Parkinson's. It literally will slow our symptoms down. It
Hmm.
will literally make us feel better because if you recall, Parkinson's is a lack of dopamine in our head. We make dopamine in our brain. We need dopamine to be happy. We need dopamine to move properly.
Hmm.
So that's why you get the movement disorder, right? Not enough dopamine. Have you ever heard of the runner's high?
Yeah,
Yes.
Holly's
Why do
had
you
it
have a
once.
runner? Well, why do you have the runner's high, Holly? What were you doing that got you that runner's high? You were
Uh,
probably running hard, working out
yes.
intensely, right?
Yes.
And be, and you get that high because you get a burst of dopamine.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Your body produces more dopamine and it gives you a blast of dopamine. And so
Yeah.
that's what I say all the time. The magic is in the intensity. We are working out, looking for that increased dopamine production and uptake and use.
Yeah.
And so without getting too deep into this stuff, it's my passion, not everybody else's. But that's why we do what we do at U-Turn Parkinson's to chase that runner's high, to chase that dopamine that our body so desperately needs,
Yeah.
and then to just help people live their best, help them live well with the disease despite the
Hmm.
the struggles that it brings.
Yeah.
So there's lots to do there. I'll be very busy with U-Turn for a very long time to come, I think.
Well, what I love is that your dad thought of you maybe being a pastor. Now you have an opportunity to show up at churches and to be speaking and preaching. You're not a pastor, but you have the opportunities, which is amazing. Compassion.ca, uturnparkinsons.org, and timsr.ca. Tim, brother, this has been so good. So glad that you've taken some time and hung out with us.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate you asking. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to say yes. And thank you for doing what you do. It's a great forum, and I appreciate being able to tell a little bit of my story here.
Johnny's eating
I just stuck a nugget in my
nuggets.
mouth.
Nuggets. You done? You're not supposed to. You're in the studio.
You start it, and then
Okay,
I'm
I
gonna
will.
take a clip. I'm gonna see if I can take a clip that's like the amazing race, and then right into the interview.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Uh, hey, I am saying hey.
Hey,
All right. Well, if you enjoyed what you heard today, like, subscribe, and check out more of our YouTube videos.
don't forget to follow us on all the socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and facestrongtoday.com.